At a new discussion right here. We're speaking and still calling Bishop Dr. David Oginde, the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Thank you so much, Chairman, for coming tonight.
Thank you.
My question, straight question, is from the pulpit to public service. Is this the same call? Is this the voice of God still?
Yes, it is. Because God is not segmented. God's work is across the board. So if you're a Bible reader, and particularly if you look at the Old Testament, where God was dealing more directly with the issues of the nation, you'll find that God's hand was in everything that was happening. So the priest, the prophet, the king, they were all directed by God. All the civilian affairs, all the spiritual affairs, everything. Mm-hmm. So it is us who have compartmentalized and made some things more sacred and others more secular. But in God's kingdom, there is no sacred, there is no secular. Everything is under God's kingdom. So whether you are serving as a KTN anchor, like you are supposed to be representing God in that space. Mm-hmm. A preacher is representing God at the pulpit. So it does not matter which space you find yourself in. The key thing is that you should be serving God in that space.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you feel at home at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission?
Depends on what you mean by at home.
From where you are,
yes,
where there's a lot of sanity. There's a lot of sanity. I mean, that was the house of God. Forget about everything else you do. And then you go to a place that I presume, I've never worked at EACC, but there must be a lot of chaos. There must be a lot of things you're dealing with, and there's no way to deal with them systematically. You learn on the job. EACC, there's no chaos. So it is just as good as church. It is the people that we are dealing with that are chaotic. And that is the same in church and is the same outside church. So in church, when you look at the people that we are trying to convert, as it were, to align themselves with purposes of God, they are just as chaotic. They are the same people who steal in the week and come to church on Sunday. And these are the same people now I'm following them in the week. So what has changed is that I used to get them only on Sunday, but now it is every day of the work. So it is the methodologies are different, the environment is different, but it is still the same wicked person that is doing wicked things, and we really want to ensure that they don't disrupt the lives of others. Mm-hmm. They don't steal the resources that belong to other people, which is what I was doing in church, but now I'm dealing with them more directly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's a sense in which the people that we are dealing with are the same. How we are handling them is different. Very different. It's different. What is, I'd like to know in the 9 months, what is the biggest lesson you have learned in the 9 months?
Positive or negative?
Both. You go.
Positive is that I've come to understand how a body like EACC works.
Okay.
The level of commitment of the people that are working there. You know, many of us have this notion that government doesn't work. And so when we are going into government, we feel like we are going into a very chaotic situation, just like you have described. Mm-hmm. And then you get into a space and you find that actually there are people who are serious about the work and they are serious about doing things right. And that for me was a pleasant surprise. And then there's a very systematic way.
You were surprised that indeed government works?
At least the space I'm in.
Oh, works. Things work at EACC.
Yes.
Okay.
That was a pleasant surprise because from where I sat, where I was that this organization could do better. That maybe I'll go in there and make a few changes here and there so that we can be more effective, which indeed, yes, it is true. Mm-hmm. But I found there was much more happening than was actually
being visible outside. And so that is the pleasant surprise I had, that I found people who are serious about their work. They are serious about doing things in the right way, and they are doing their best. It's just that what we are dealing with, the scope of it is like an ocean. And we are trying to cross this ocean using a little boat. So it is overwhelming. The work is so much more than the capacity that we have.
Both monetary and human resource.
Human resource, monetary resources, we do not have what it would require for us to be able to even make a reasonable dent into the fight against corruption. Because corruption in this country is unfortunately very extensive and very pervasive, and is very diverse. So we need all kinds of strategies, we need all kinds of people, and that will require a lot of resources in order for us to tackle it in a manner that people can begin to feel that something is happening. But otherwise, some very good work is going on, and I'm personally, if you say comfortable, yes, I'm comfortable where we are with what we are doing.
Okay.
The very unpleasant surprise for me is that corruption in this country is has entered into our system. It is in our bloodstream. So even when you talk about billions that have been stolen, we go about our business as if nothing has happened, you know? We have got used to it. It is unfortunate that sometimes the same people that we are complaining about, we as electorate celebrate them. We as ordinary citizens, we celebrate these people. And sometimes you find, for example, EACC arrests a person and a whole crowd comes to escort them, that our person is being harassed. So those are surprises. Those are negative surprises that I find. The third negative surprise and discouraging is our legal system. Our legal framework is such that it is not facilitative to fighting corruption. So that can be very frustrating, especially for us who work within EACC, within the commission, because you do so much work, and for it to go through the process and for you to realize the fruit of your labor, sometimes it can take very long, and sometimes it ends up in great disappointment.
Okay.
And so that I have found discouraging, not just for me, but even for the people that are within.
There's a lot to ask on that aspect, especially on the perceived of the real conflict with the other investigating agency. And I'll ask that. But I want to take you back to something you said. The resources are insufficient to even make a reasonable dent in this fight. So what are you doing there?
What are we doing there?
What is reasonable, in your opinion?
If we were not there, look at it this way. If we were not there, I can just imagine where corruption in this country would be at. The fact that EACC exists prevents a lot. But like I said, if you are looking at an ocean, even though you are getting some water out of this, in the eyes of the public, it feels like nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
So that is the frustration that I was talking about. That you do so much, we are busy. I mean, we are very busy. But in the eyes of the public, you hear it all the time. What is EACC doing? Where is EACC? This is a toothless bulldog, and so on and so forth. Until you come in and you find that there's a lot of work that is going on, there's a lot of ground that is being covered, but compared to the overall extent of the corruption in the country, it feels like nothing.
Okay. Did you feel when you got to Integrity House that the revolving door was actually sanitizing a lot of individuals that go in and go out. Did you have that feeling at all? And have you encountered it?
Like I said, the perception when I was an ordinary member of the public, that is the perception, that people just come in and out, the revolving door.
Yeah.
But nothing happens. Having been inside, I can tell you for a fact that EACC does a very thorough job. If you look at the processes that we go through in order for us to conclude a case from our side, it is a very thorough process. And there is no one person who deals with a case. It is all teamwork. So it is very difficult I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is very difficult for, say, you as a person to come and be sanitized through our revolving doors.
Because of the team?
Because of the teamwork. So that even if you were to corrupt me as an individual because I'm your friend,
you'll have to
how do I deal with my colleagues?
They're your teammates.
They're my teammates.
Yes.
So I will have to explain how comes this case I'm trying to say, no, Ken is okay, and so on and so forth. They will begin to suspect that something
You'll have to justify yourself.
Exactly. So that makes it a little more tamper-proof because no one person deals with a case. And even if that were to happen, the process that it goes through, we have faster cases for example, is reported. An allegation is raised by either whistleblower or auditor general or parliament or any ordinary person who raises a concern over an issue. The initial step is that our intelligence team first goes to find out if there is anything around it. So if they find that, yes, indeed, there is some smoke, then now the investigative team goes to find out where the fire might be. So they collect their information and data. That data is then brought to a team that analyzes it to just find out whether it is a viable case, is worth following up, and so on. If they are convinced, and I'm talking about teams, then it now goes to further investigation, collection of evidence, and so on. Then there's an evidence analysis team to just analyze and find out, can this evidence stand in a court of law? What are the loopholes? What more data do we need? And so on and so forth. If that passes and they are satisfied, it then goes into another ordinary team that now just looks at the whole case in totality.
Okay.
And these are professionals.
Okay.
So they then look at that case. Once they are satisfied, then it now comes to what we call the enforcement committee. This is where now the commissioners and the other team members now sit as if it were in court, and this team presents us with the case the way they would present in court, and we act as a jury because we are not professionals, but we act as a jury to just look at where this case lies, if there's any gaps that we see with an ordinary eye, where there's evidence that needs to be further brought out, where there are facts that leave gaps, and so on. So it is after that, when it is passed through that the chairman, myself, and the CEO now sign that case, and it is sent to them.
So you're saying this process is thorough?
It's very thorough.
I'll be asking questions about how thorough it is, but talk to me about the 9 months. What would you point and say as Dr. Oginde, this is what I have achieved in 9 months inside EACC? Is it restructuring? Is it bringing, what is it that you'd say that as Dr. Oginde, this is my success in 9 months?
In 9 months, what I would say is that, like I said, the commission is made up of very, what can I say, professional teams. So my role has been mainly to encourage people to continue with the work they are doing. We are in a very discouraging environment in several ways. There's discouragement in terms of the work that we do. These people work and overwork themselves.
these people are not remunerated to the levels commensurate with the work that they do. For that example, I can tell you, for 18 years, their salaries have never been reviewed.
Stagnating.
And yet they deal with people who are stealing billions and exposing themselves to situations, temptations, you know. So you really need to encourage these people to be able to do their work well. Reviewing systems and structures of operations. That is something that is in my area of interest, so that we are more effective in the work that we are doing. So some of those things have been done, and from the feedback I get from within, and I don't want to speak for myself, it is better if the other people you should be asking them, has it made any difference in the system? I think from the feedback I've got from the members of the team is that those are some things that have brought encouragement. I came in at a place where we were just working on our new strategic plan. And even though I came at the tail end of it, I was able to make a contribution in what are some of the areas we should focus on, some of the things we should do. Having observed for just a few, let me say, it was just a month or two, having observed the commission, how it was operating, and looking at, with the limited resources, where should we focus our attention? Because we cannot run after everything. And I think that was appreciated, that we are now a little more focused in some of the things we do and some of the things we may not pour our energies in. So that we can maximize the little resources that we have in areas of greater impact.
You have a constitutional term, and I guess when you went there, perhaps you have a low-hanging fruit that you will say, this is my legacy. What is it for you that one thing that if you think you did at EACC, you'll be satisfied eventually when your constitutional term ends? What is that one thing, the low-hanging fruit for you?
For me, it is change. If I can succeed, and let me say, if we can succeed as a commission to transform the culture of Kenyans so that we can be men and women of integrity, because that will be the ultimate solution to our problem. Our solution is not going to be how many cases we successfully prosecute through the courts. That will not be a solution. It can be a celebration. We have nailed so-and-so, we have nailed so-and-so, but it will not be a solution.
So the culture change?
Culture change for me is the main area that we have to work on, and this is something that I have shared with our fellow commissioners and our staff, that we need to look for ways and means that can begin to help Kenyans to see the impact of corruption in their lives, in the life of the nation. Is it an existential danger to us? It could wipe us out of the map of the world.
A view from inside, how bad is corruption in this country?
Corruption in this country?
Yes, how bad is it?
It's very bad.
Horrible?
I think horrible is mild.
Horrible
Recently,
yes.
There was the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index,
yes, the rankings
that came out. Kenya scored 30.
Not 31? 30, okay.
Out of 31 out of
31
out of 100. 31%. Now, if you get 31% in an exam, I don't know what you call that. Is it horrible, good, bad?
That's where we are as a country.
That's where we are as a country. Now, you compare with our neighbor Tanzania, who scored 40. You compare with our neighbor Rwanda, who scored 53. You compare with
the best in the region.
In the best in the region.
He was the best in the region, yes.
So it tells you that we are not doing well. Now, this could just be numbers, and many people just see them as numbers. But what that the implications of that are profound, because this perception index is used by investors to know where they can take their business, which countries that they can trust when they are doing business deals with. So I was actually talking with our MPs the other day, and I was saying that for me, Tanzania, for example, it could be a threat to us, because Tanzania has everything that we have. Everything. Mm-hmm. Ethiopia could do better, but they don't have a coast. So they still have to rely on us for passage of their goods. Mm. They are a threat to us, but not as much. Rwanda may not be as much of a threat to us, but they still are. But Tanzania is an existential threat to Kenya, because they have everything that we have. Talk about tourism. We share the same animals across the border, mm-hmm. You know? You talk about
blue
economy, they have it. Mm-hmm. You talk about the ports, they have it. You talk about everything that we have, they have.
They have, yeah.
And then they have a bigger mass of land, more productive,
more population, bigger than us.
Bigger population,
yes.
etc., etc. Mm-hmm. So if people begin to feel that Kenya is not a good place to invest in, let's go to Tanzania. There's something that we call in leadership the illusion of invincibility. Mm-hmm. The illusion of invincibility is where a person or an entity or a nation gets to that place where they believe or think that they are invincible. They cannot be beaten. It is what brought the Titanic down. Because Titanic, the builders of Titanic actually said, even God
cannot sink
this ship. We have taken care of everything. Mm-hmm. It is an iceberg, not a rock, that brought it down. So the illusion of invincibility is something that can capture us as a nation, that can put us in that place where we think, because we have been the regional giant, we have the biggest economic bloc in the region, we are invincible. And therefore, we can do whatever we want.
And we'll get away with it.
We'll continue. Mm. Whilst in this competitive environment, you could find that another nation rises and takes your place. That's how kingdoms have fallen. Empires have come down. Where's Great Britain? Where is the Roman Empire? US is going through its own challenges. China has suddenly risen from nowhere, taking the globe economically. Mm-hmm. So this challenge of invincibility is something that I fear for our country. And corruption is one of the things that we must deal with decisively. Okay. As a people, not EACC, mm-hmm. not government, but all of us as a people, that we see that this is water that is leaking into our boat. And if we don't do something about it, it can sink with all of us. So my focus is on how do we get Kenyans to turn and change our perspective to our lives so that we can do something about our corrupt nature.
Okay, and it starts with ethics, and those are proposals to even begin teaching ethics as low as elementary schools.
Yes, it is there.
So there's so many
it is there.
Actually,
we have made proposals that have been incorporated in the curriculum. We are building integrity clubs in our schools, and our colleges, and so on, that can more specifically deal with issues of corruption. Okay. Through these little efforts, if Kenyans, we do embrace that, I think we can change our culture. But we also want to go out with serious education campaigns. Mm-hmm. We are right now working on a program where we want to just take a whole season to talk to Kenyans about the effects and the impact of corruption, okay. No matter how small it is. Because we have this conception in our minds that Corruption is only when there are billions. So you hear when we arrest a police officer, they say we are only dealing with omenas. We are not focusing on the big fish. The 50 shillings taken by a police officer is a multi-billion shilling, what can I say, industry, lack of a better word. The amount of money that is collected through that 50 shillings, it runs into billions.
Is a lot.
So it is not a...
That's why you still target them in spite of the fact that
we still have to go
you go for the big fish. Wow. So I'm just wondering what it will take. And I need to quickly go over this, but which generation? My father's, our father's generation, your generation, my generation, our children, or the children of our children. When do you believe this will happen? In our lifetime?
It has to happen in our lifetime.
In our lifetime?
Yes.
Okay.
At least in my lifetime in EACC.
I say it's ambitious, but we wish you the best. Let's go back to the cases that have gone to court. You told me this is a watertight process. When you look at the cases that have been forwarded to court, some via DCI, but let's focus on the ones that have been forwarded to court via EACC, and some that have come a cropper. What comes to your mind? Like you say, this is solid process. From the beginning of the collection, the intelligence reporting and all that, until it goes to court, then suddenly this case is dismissed. At one point, it was said that EACC was the weakest link. Another point, judiciary was the weakest link. Another point, the DCI was the weakest link. But let's focus on this too. When you see some of the cases that have been forwarded, and please don't ask me which one.
No.
The way you're looking at me.
No, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to your question.
Mostly, the ones that involve government officials, the county officials. I know there are quite a number in court, right? But government official, cabinet secretaries, without mentioning specific names, there are cases that have have been dismissed in court for lack of evidence or sufficient evidence or poor investigations, right? They've taken too long and sometimes they're dismissed. So without mentioning specific ones, we have cases that have gone the route of EACC and gone to court, and some we know have been dismissed by court. When you sit there, I know it's 9 months, but when you sit there and look at such cases and having painted that rosy picture of that elaborate process, what goes through your mind?
I said that we have a legal framework that is not very conducive to fighting and combating corruption. So, in spite, therefore, of our sometimes very elaborate work that we have done, a case that where we sit, normally we would say, this is a very good case, you know.
From your point of view?
From our point of view,
yeah.
This is a very good case. We have our evidence, we have everything. We think this is a case that we can take to court and it should pass through. Now, this framework that is there is that there are several steps that it has to go through. And many of those steps we are not involved.
Okay.
Because once we finish our investigation, we hand over this.
Don't you donate a prosecutor? The investigative officer becomes a witness, or they prosecute the case?
No, they don't prosecute.
They don't.
We don't prosecute.
You investigate and hand over to someone who has never interacted with that case to prosecute it.
That is the law.
That's the weakest link.
That is the law.
But that's the weakest link.
That's why I say it's
Yes.
a legal framework.
Yes.
So I don't know whether I would say it is a weakest link, but I would say it is a system, therefore, because I hand over this case to you, you have not been part of it.
From the outside.
So you have to understand it and then go and prosecute it. So if the person who has been journeying with this thing from zero were to go and present this in court, there is more than just legalese. There is part of that person that goes with that case, you know, as they present it. So, but now that is not the process. So the people who have been investigators and so on are part of the witnesses for the prosecutor, who will then come and say, this is what we did, this is how, you know.
But not the prosecutors.
No, the prosecutors
Can this change? Can this change? So that I know it's been a call, oh, we need more powers to be able to prosecute. And now I know trained lawyers are going down to be prosecutors, not only the police. Can this change? And you have a lot of lawyers, including my colleagues at EACC. Can this change?
It can change.
Think
it's a legal, because recently we had a visit from Zambia. They had come for benchmarking, as what you would call EACC of Zambia, you know, had come for benchmarking in Kenya. And in the course of our discussions, they actually prosecute their cases. So they don't forward it to any other person, so they prosecute their cases. And with good success. Of course, there are still frustrations here and there. But there is greater success. For example, we look at the cases that we take to court directly, which are civil in nature. Civil cases, we don't take them to any other person. We take them to court direct. And our greatest area of success in those civil matters, assets recovery, unexplained wealth, and all those kinds of cases, those ones which we take directly. And it is our area of success.
Okay.
So there are two problems that I see in that process. One is what we have already said. The second one is that, for example, we investigate a case. It is then forwarded to the Office of the Director for Prosecution. Now, Director for Public Prosecution deals with all criminal cases, not just the EACC cases. So you can imagine the DCI is feeding information, EACC is bringing their cases, and other sources are bringing their cases. So all these cases end up in one office. Now, that office, therefore, is overloaded. So even files can take a while in the ODPP's office. Not because they don't want to prosecute them, but because they are overwhelmed with work, because they are also saying, we don't have adequate staff. We don't have adequate resources. So that, again, you can see we have investigated a case, but even taking it in court may take several months, may take several years before it is actually taken to court.
I'm interested in knowing also from where you sit, the presence of Justice Maina and Justice Professor Sifuna only as the ones dealing, and Professor Sifuna donates actually his time to that court, right? Would you say if we had more judges dealing with such cases, you would be at a better place?
That is yes, that is true. If we had the corruption cases, not cases, courts that are dedicated to corruption issues were better staffed and resourced, that would certainly help, because then the cases would move faster and would be hopefully concluded sooner. And that would make both the accused and us who are prosecuting resolve issues faster. So you either found guilty or not guilty. But you see, this news can be hanging around your neck for years.
The longest time.
You know?
Take so many years to deal with. So this brings me to the question of your relationship with DCI, your working relationship with DCI. There's always conflict. I attended a forum of EACC in Mombasa last year, December. And one of the issues they said, the suspects have become so clever. They will hand over sectional files to EACC and section to the other side. By the time you reconcile, it's time gone. So that working relationship, how do you think EACC can work better with DCI? Because there is a lot of duplicity and conflict of interest, especially in cases you are interested in them, DCI is interested in them, and that causes conflict.
I don't think it's an issue of interest, because we are not interested in cases, neither is DCI interested in a case. But sometimes it may appear like that, because both of us are investigative agencies. So now, matters of corruption and economic crime are criminal cases. DCI is mandated to investigate all criminal cases. So there's no separation.
The line is too thin.
There's no line.
There's no line.
Actually, for DCI, there's no line. For EACC, there's a line. Because our mandate is to deal with corruption, economic crimes, ethical issues, and so on. So that is our line. So if somebody murders another person,
that's not our business.
Don't even venture there.
We don't venture there. Now, if somebody is corrupt, DCI can venture there because that's a criminal offense.
Yeah.
Okay? So the law can be made such that it is clear that EACC will deal with all corruption, economic crimes, ethical issues exclusively. Then that would remove most of the overlaps.
Okay.
If that was done. But as it is now, the law gives us this mandate, but it doesn't take it away from DCI. So DCI is legitimately following a case because it's criminal. So we cannot blame him for coming into our territory, as it were, because the law provides and gives him that
and the
mandate.
Taxpayers pay for them.
And the taxpayers pay for them. Yes.
Yeah.
So, like you say, some clever people can play the games that you are talking about.
So you're saying it will take Parliament?
It will take Parliament.
It will take Parliament.
It is a legal matter where Parliament can designate.
So what is the near solution? What do you do right now to ensure the overlaps and the conflicts does not undermine your cases?
We discuss.
You have a round table?
If, say, for example, a case is, there's a case that we feel is in our mandate, but DCI, or sometimes we actually don't know. So we are pursuing a case, and then we hear DCI is also pursuing the case. Then we discuss and say, who should deal with this? Because it is a waste of public resources for both of us to pursue this case. So in that case, we talk with DCI and we agree, you proceed with this, we will pull back on it.
If you need our help, we are here.
We can be of help.
Okay.
DCI likewise sometimes calls us and say there's this case that we are pursuing, but it looks better in your office.
Okay.
So we take it up. So there's that discussion. So it is not adversarial. It is not an adversarial relationship. It is just logistical and the overlaps that are there, and where matters are in the gray area. And sometimes the criminals like those gray areas because that's where they
hide.
They wanapitia katikati yao.
Chairman, there's a lot of questions to ask, even for Kenyans who are watching. I don't know if we can finish this in an hour. But I have this specific question because it's a huge issue to Kenyans, the public debt. Do you have a mandate to probe the public debt?
We don't have a mandate to probe the public debt in the sense of debt. But we have a mandate to probe anywhere, anything, any process that has any corruption, where due process was not followed, where public resources may be lost. So we have a mandate, whether it is in public debt or pending bills or whatever it is.
Get in.
Provided that if, for example, Ken, you came to us today and say, this particular money that was borrowed from here, I have evidence to show that it went into so-and-so's pocket. We will pick that up and we'll follow it.
Okay.
So we have no limit as to what we can do.
What you can do. So for this, because it's a hot potato, Kenyans can't swallow it. What happens on the issue of public debt? Because it said that Kenya's problem is actually debt, not that we don't collect enough or not that we don't have money, but it's debt. Is there somewhere, or unless someone brings a motion to you?
If we had indications as to what it is that people are saying happened, then it's our role to investigate. Okay. And if we do find that indeed some money was lost somewhere, money was borrowed but not used for what it was intended, we will deal with it.
Do you take cases on your own motion, or
yes,
they have to be referred?
Yes, we do.
Or you take on your own motion?
Yes.
I have to ask you this last question because we are running out of time. Your relationship with Parliament, judiciary, and of course the executive, and is there goodwill from where you sit? Most of these officers say, I came to the office, I thought there would be goodwill, I'd be supported. It lacks in this sense. So Parliament, judiciary and the executive. Do you have the goodwill? Do they support your work?
I would say yes. First of all, just before I clarify on the yes, we are an independent commission. And therefore, we do not need goodwill. We do not need support. We have to do our work. Because if we depended only on goodwill, if we depended only on the support of others, then our work can be undermined.
Okay.
So we have been given mandate by the law, by the Constitution. And we, as an independent commission, we act on our own motion. We do things according to what has been given to us. So we don't need a person's goodwill, we don't need a person's support. But having said that, that support, that goodwill in any environment makes work easier. And therefore, we will talk and collaborate and discuss with judiciary on how, for example, we talked about courts. We will talk with Chief Justice. Can the number of judicial officers in the anti-corruption courts be increased? That is goodwill. So if the Chief Justice adds more judges, opens more courts across the country, that makes our work easier.
Okay.
So that is goodwill, that is support.
JLAC?
JLAC, we are answerable as an independent commission. We are answerable to Parliament. And our answerability to Parliament is through JLAC, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. So they are our oversight committee.
Okay.
So our relationship with them is what would help us greatly in terms of, like, for example, what we are talking about, legal framework and so on. We just had a whole week meeting in Naivasha with the team.
Yeah.
And we raised some of these concerns. And indeed, they heard us and understood some of the frustrations, obstacles that we go through. So our hope, which we actually agreed on, is that they are going to take up some of these things and see what can be done through Parliament.
Okay.
So that is a working relationship. But they are also our oversight. So again, the relationship cannot be too cozy because they are the ones who oversight us.
Yeah.
They are the ones who check whether we are doing our work according to our mandate on behalf of Kenyans.
Finally, the executive.
The executive, in particular the office of the president, you need that goodwill. For example, when the president comes out and says, we are going to fight corruption, we are not going to tolerate corruption, that already puts some wind in our feathers, you know, and therefore we are able to move with greater courage, with greater boldness in certain areas. Now, we don't have to wait for the president to do that for us to act. But when he does that, just like I said before, it makes our work easier. So again, that is the relationship that we have.
How often does he call to say, daktari, kunaendelea aje huko?
Very rarely.
Really? I saw the deputy president visited.
In our office? Oh yes, earlier familiarization tour.
Just familiarization. But they don't come to check a file?
No. They have no mandate to do that. They are not supposed to call us to give directions.
Okay. And they don't. It's important that they don't. Not that they are not supposed to. They don't.
They call just like any other person calls, you know, and maybe to find out where a case is or how it is going. But what we do with that call is up to us.
Okay.
Because, say, whether it is the president or head of public service or deputy president or any other government official can come and say, what is this that we are hearing? Or what is this case? Are you pursuing this? What are you doing about that? And we give relevant information. Okay. But that is not supposed to influence how we do our work.
30 seconds, my director is on my ear. Your parting shot to Kenyans on this war on corruption, if it can be won, and you said what it will take to win this war, your parting shot?
What I would say is that, for example, just recently, yesterday, the Public Service Commission was handing over to us a report on fake certificates.
Yes.
This is just an example of what we ordinary Kenyans, forget about the big fish, are doing to undermine the very foundation of our nation. If we were to continue with this trend of faking our certificates and forging our documents, it reduces and undermines the confidence that the people have in our education system. Mm-hmm. It means that if you carry your certificate and you're going to look for a job out there in the world, people will not take you seriously. Even though you have worked very hard, you have earned this degree, it means that people may not want to get people from our country, to get labor from our country, because they are not sure that when you say, I have a master's in this, that you actually have it. So that is what it does. It jeopardizes our future. And there are many, many other similar kind of acts that we do as ordinary citizens, which actually undermine our existence. So what I would like to call upon Kenyans is, let us be a people who just do the right thing. If you want a degree, go to school, work hard, get a degree. If you want a job, go to the office, sit an interview. If you get the job, do a good job, and that's it. When you get a government office appointment, it is not for you to eat. It is for you to serve Kenyans. If we all did this, this country would be so far. The economic challenges that we are talking about would almost be a thing of the past, because this country is rich, we have enough resources, we have enough to go around for every one of us. But if a few of us decide to take what is there and keep it for ourselves, that's why the rest of us are starving and are hungry.
Mm-hmm. This exercise is not targeting specific people.
Which one?
The certificates one.
No. It is not targeting anybody, because already, as I told you, we already have cases that have been forwarded to us that we are investigating. So we were looking at how can we curb this menace. The report that was being given to us was an audit that started 2 years ago.
Okay.
It is not yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Long before you came to EACC.
Long before I came to EACC.
And the Kenya Kwanza government was elected.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can't say it is targeting certain individuals. Mm-hmm. It's just that there were so many reports that were coming up. So in the wisdom of PSC, they felt, why don't we do an audit across board and see just how far this thing is and how we can curb it, for which we commend them.
Okay. Thank you, Bishop Dr. David Oginde.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I know we were supposed to speak earlier on, last year after May,
yes,
but we couldn't. And you still teach?
Yes, I do teach.
Where do you get the time?
Time you have, and I have.
No, I have time. Do you have the time?
Yes, I do. I mean, time is created for the things that matter
to you.
Yes.
Very true.
You will create time for things that matter to you.
So you're still passionate about mentoring?
I'm passionate about developing value-driven leaders.
Okay.
That I'm passionate about, that I spend my life on, whether in EACC or outside of EACC.
Do you still preach?
I still preach. I was preaching on Sunday.
You had sit-up on Sunday?
Yes.
Oh, great. Bishop, a good place to end this discussion. I'll be asking your team once again. I know you're my friend, but I'll ask your team once again to come. There's so much we need to talk about.
Why not?
Yes, there's so much to talk about, and mine is to wish you the best.
Thank you.
As my friend first.
Yes.
And we'll have another time to talk about this, and the more we talk to Kenyans about this, I think you will achieve your aim in your lifetime.
You are one of our greatest partners, not you as a person.
As the media.
But as the media fraternity. And you as a person also. You are our great support, because without you, Kenyans will not know what we are doing.
Exactly.
You are the ones who tell them what we are doing. And so when you give us a platform like this, we really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
A good place to end with appreciation. Gratitude is a must. Have a good night. My name is Ken Mijungu. On behalf of the whole team, thank you so much. Earlier on, we had the minority leader, Opio Wandai. But I'm told as I let him go, there's one or two stories that I need to tell you. So let's talk about coffee. Now, the coffee auction has witnessed unprecedented milestone, indicating potential benefits arising from reforms in the coffee sector. Now, record prices